Urban Legends from Around the World Episode 2, Bloody Mary. Hello everyone, and welcome to the second episode of our series on urban legends from around the world. Today, we'll explore one of the most chilling and well-known urban legends, Bloody Mary. This tale has been told and retold for generations, each version more terrifying than the last. So sit back, relax, and prepare to be spooked by this haunting legend. Urban legends are a fascinating part of modern folklore. They are stories passed down through generations, often containing a mix of truth, fiction, and moral lessons. These tales capture our imagination, playing on our fears and the unknown. In this series, we will explore some of the most intriguing and spine-chilling urban legends from around the world. Our journey continues with the infamous tale of Bloody Mary. The legend of Bloody Mary is one that has been passed down through generations, whispered in the dark corners of slumber parties and campfires. It is said that if you stand in front of a mirror in a dark room and chant her name 3 times, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, she will appear. What happens next varies from story to story, but it is never good. Some say she will scratch your face, others that she will pull you into the mirror, and still others that she will simply drive you mad with fear. Chapter 1: The Origin of Bloody Mary. The true origins of Bloody Mary are shrouded in mystery, with multiple stories vying for authenticity. One popular version traces back to Mary Tudor, also known as Mary I of England, who was given the nickname Bloody Mary due to her persecution of Protestants. Another version claims that Bloody Mary was a witch who was executed for practicing dark magic. Yet another story suggests she was a young girl who met a tragic end and now seeks revenge. The historical Mary Tudor was known for her bloody reign, but the supernatural elements of the legend are likely a blend of various myths and fears. In this episode, we will delve into these different origins and explore how they have influenced the legend we know today. Chapter 2: The Dare. Our story begins with a group of friends who decide to test the legend. It was a crisp autumn evening, and the group had gathered at Sarah's house for a sleepover. They were sitting in a circle, sharing scary stories and trying to outdo each other. Finally, Jake, the most skeptical of the group, dared someone to summon Bloody Mary. "I dare you to go into the bathroom, turn off the lights, and say her name 3 times, Jake challenged, a mischievous grin on his face. Sarah, ever the brave one, accepted the dare. With a flashlight in hand, she made her way to the bathroom. The others followed her to the door, giggling nervously. Sarah entered the bathroom, closed the door, and turned off the lights. She stood in front of the mirror, her heart pounding. "Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary," she chanted, her voice barely above a whisper. At first, nothing happened. Sarah let out a relieved sigh and reached for the light switch. But then, she saw something in the mirror. It was a faint outline, like a shadow, slowly taking form. Her breath caught in her throat as the figure became clearer, a pale face with dark, hollow eyes staring back at her. Sarah screamed and stumbled backwards, throwing the door open. Her friends caught her as she fell, her face pale and her eyes wide with terror. "I saw her," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I saw Bloody Mary." Chapter 3: The Aftermath. The encounter with Bloody Mary left the group shaken. Sarah couldn't shake the image of that pale face from her mind. She started having nightmares, waking up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat. Her friends tried to console her, but they were also haunted by the incident. A few days later, strange things began to happen. Sarah's reflection in the mirror seemed to move on its own, mimicking her actions with a delay. She started seeing shadows out of the corner of her eye, and she felt a constant, icy chill in the air. Desperate for help, Sarah confided in her grandmother, who was known for her knowledge of old legends and folklore. Her grandmother listened carefully, her face growing more serious with each passing word. "You've awakened something that should have been left alone," her grandmother said. "Bloody Mary is not just a story, she is a spirit that seeks vengeance. You must find a way to appease her before it's too late." Sarah's grandmother then shared stories of similar encounters she had heard in her youth. These tales, although different in detail, shared the same ominous warning: disturbing the spirits of the dead often leads to dire consequences. Chapter 4: The Research. Determined to find a solution, Sarah and her friends began researching the legend of Bloody Mary. They spent hours in the library, poring over old books and documents. They discovered various rituals and spells that were said to banish spirits, but none seemed to fit their situation. One day, while sifting through a dusty old tome, Sarah came across a passage that caught her eye. It described a ritual that could summon Bloody Mary with the intent of making peace. The ritual involved a mirror, a black candle, and an offering of blood. Sarah's friends were hesitant, but Sarah was determined. "We started this together, and we need to end it together," she insisted. Reluctantly, they agreed to help her. Chapter 5: The Ritual. On a moonless night, the group gathered at Sarah's house once again. They followed the instructions to the letter, setting up the mirror and lighting the black candle. The air was thick with tension as they prepared for the ritual. Sarah pricked her finger with a needle and let a few drops of blood fall onto the mirror. She then began the chant, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her. "Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary," she repeated, her eyes locked on the mirror. The candle flickered, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. The mirror fogged up, and a shape began to form. The friends held their breath as the figure of Bloody Mary appeared before them, her eyes filled with anger and sorrow. "We mean no harm," Sarah said, her voice shaking. "We seek forgiveness for disturbing your rest. Please let us make peace." For a moment, it seemed as if Bloody Mary would lash out. But then, her expression softened. She looked at Sarah with a mixture of sadness and relief. Slowly, she began to fade, her form dissolving into the mist. As the last remnants of her figure disappeared, the candle went out, and the room returned to normal. The friends let out a collective sigh of relief, the tension finally lifting. They knew that while the encounter had been terrifying, they had managed to make peace with the restless spirit. Chapter 6: The Reflection. In the days that followed, the strange occurrences ceased. Sarah's nightmares stopped, and the shadows that had haunted her disappeared. She felt a sense of closure, knowing that they had done the right thing. The experience brought the group of friends closer together. They had faced their fears and come out stronger on the other side. The legend of Bloody Mary remained a cautionary tale, a reminder of the consequences of meddling with the unknown. As they moved on with their lives, they carried the memory of that night with them. They knew that some stories were more than just legends, and that the line between the supernatural and reality was thinner than they had ever imagined. Chapter 7: A New Challenge. Just as they began to feel a sense of normalcy returning, Sarah received a mysterious letter in the mail. It was an old, yellowed envelope with no return address. Inside there was a single piece of parchment with a warning written in an elegant, flowing script. Disturb not the spirits of the past, for they hold grudges long and deep. Sarah's hands trembled as she read the letter. She knew they had made peace with Bloody Mary, but the warning suggested that their troubles might not be over. She shared the letter with her friends, who were equally disturbed. Jake, ever the skeptic, suggested they investigate further. He believed that understanding the origins of the letter might help them avoid any future encounters with malevolent spirits. Chapter 8: The Investigation. The group decided to trace the origin of the letter. Their search led them to an old, abandoned house on the outskirts of town. The house had a reputation for being haunted, and many believed it was the source of several local legends. As they explored the house, they found evidence of dark rituals and strange symbols etched into the walls. In the attic, they discovered a dusty old book filled with incantations and spells. The book seemed to be a guide to communicating with spirits, and it contained a section on Bloody Mary. The book revealed that Bloody Mary was not the only spirit seeking vengeance. There were others, spirits who had been wronged and were now restless. The group realized that their encounter with Bloody Mary had opened a door to the spirit world, and they needed to find a way to close it. Chapter 9: The Final Ritual. With the knowledge they had gained, Sarah and her friends decided to perform one final ritual to close the door to the spirit world. They gathered the necessary ingredients: a mirror, a black candle, and a mixture of herbs and oils. As they prepared for the ritual, the atmosphere grew tense. The air felt thick with anticipation, and shadows seemed to dance around the room. Sarah took a deep breath and began the chant, her voice steady and confident. Spirits of the past, hear our plea. We seek to close the door, to set you free. By this mirror, candle, and flame, we call upon you to end this game. The candle flickered, and the room grew colder. The mirror fogged up, and the group watched as figures began to form. They saw Bloody Mary, her eyes filled with sadness, and other spirits, each with their own story of pain and sorrow. We mean no harm, Sarah continued. We seek peace for you and for us. Please let this be the end. The spirits seemed to acknowledge her words. Slowly, they began to fade, their forms dissolving into the mist. The candle burned brighter for a moment, then extinguished itself. The room returned to normal, and a sense of calm settled over them. Chapter 10: Moving on. With the final ritual complete, Sarah and her friends felt a sense of relief. The strange occurrences ceased, and they no longer felt the presence of the spirits. They knew they had done the right thing, and they had finally found peace. The experience had changed them. They had faced their fears and learned the importance of respecting the unknown. They continued to share their story, warning others about the dangers of disturbing the spirits of the past. As they moved forward with their lives, they carried the memory of that night with them. They knew that some stories were more than just legends, and that the line between the supernatural and reality was thinner than they had ever imagined. Urban legends like Bloody Mary tap into our primal fears and our fascination with the supernatural. They remind us that there are still mysteries in the world that cannot be easily explained. As we continue this series, we'll delve deeper into other chilling tales from different parts of the globe, each one more terrifying and intriguing than the last. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of urban legends. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we explore another spine-tingling tale. And remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that could be true.